Alright, in today's video, I am going to demonstrate a project that I recently made, and let me just, without further ado, walk you through what it is about. So, problem statement. Now, what I mean to do here is to automatically gather the news, that is the top 5 articles from the internet. Top 5 articles of what exactly, that is in our objectives, or should I say the subtasks of this problem statement. So I'll be getting top 5 articles from Google News based on the user query. We'll get to see what exactly do I mean by user query here. And then top 5 articles from Al Jazeera, two reputed news sources. And so if you are someone like me who doesn't like to read a lot of newspapers, doesn't like to read full length articles, what we're going to do for our sakes is we're going to summarize the text in each article. And then we're going to compare the two articles, the article, sorry, the compare the summarized text and the original text, and we're gonna compare the number of words in each article. That is again the summarized and the original. Then we are going to analyze the sentiment of the original article, and what we're going to do next is make separate folders for Google News and Al Jazeera, and we're going to write all the content that we mentioned in the first 5 articles that we've retrieved from there. We're going to write all this content in a PDF file. That is one PDF file for Google News, one PDF file for Al Jazeera per topic, depending on the user query, whatever the user wants. Then we're going to put all these files in both these files, let's say, in the respective source folder. Source folder meaning the folders that we have created in this step. That is in Google News and Al Jazeera, their respective folders. Now, the technologies, libraries, and the concepts that I've used for this project are this project is entirely made in Node.js, and I've used Cheerio for scraping the web and selecting tools based on my convenience. Then there's Puppeteer, which will be performing the actual automation portion. Then there comes the text summary. This will be used to summarize the text of each article. It's pretty essential for our objective. Then there comes the sentiment library. So I've already installed all of these, and the same goes for PDF kit, which will be used to write all of our content in the PDF files. And of course, and for the automation part of this project, I will be using the concepts of async await. I considered using promises in the initial draft, but I came to the conclusion that async await is much simpler and reduces the number of lines used in our code by a great degree. So without further ado, let's go on to the project and its demonstration. So I have stored this file in a hackathon folder. Oh, before you go there, let me show you the type of output that we will be expecting. So, so you can see there are two folders, Al Jazeera and Google News. Once we open Google News, I'll just show you one of them. I searched for articles on COVID-19, and give it a second to open. So basically, what it will do is that it will number the articles while it opens. So let me just brief you through it. It will number the articles. It will give you the title. It will give you the source, the link of that particular article in case somebody wants to, go into the depth of it. And as you can see, there is the content, then the number of words in the original article, number of words in the summarized article. Now I've reduced this to the number of sentences to 10 for based on my convenience. Of course, that is a variable that can be changed. Then the sentiment. If it's less than 0, then it tends to be negative. Otherwise, it tends to be positive. If it is near 0, it shows a bit of neutrality. And as I suggested, we'll be using seeing 5 different articles. So there's 1, there's 2, there is 3, there is 4, there is 5, and almost all of them seem to have a negative connotation, and rightly so. Um, there's a 13. It doesn't matter. That just means the journalist did their job well by writing a neutral article. And there's minus 49. Somebody is feeling sentimental today. Anyway, irrespective of that, we'll try to run this code for a new query. This was code 19. I'll try to do it for artificial intelligence. There is a lot of progress in the area, and I'm assuming we'll receive some positive articles. Another thing, so in case the code is unable to retrieve the document, it will simply, well, not, it won't be able to give the content, obviously. It will simply give you the title and the link. So, and it'll say that it's not able to acquire the article. You may visit the link directly. Now, I've named it nodejarvis.js because, well, I feel like it's one step closer to my journey of creating my own Jarvis. Um, so, that's my query. Artificial intelligence. Right. Now, all we are going to do is wait for the program to run. Now, while it does, like I said, one small caveat. It might not receive the documents right away. That could be due to my internet connection. That could be due to my laptop specifications, because it's a bit of an old machine. So sometimes it runs, sometimes it doesn't. Mostly it has been running. So let's hope that's the case for this particular code as well. And Chromium is loaded. It decided that it wants to run today. And while it does, let's give it a moment. So as you can see, a new tab has been opened already, and Al Jazeera is on. Yes, we do rely on Al Jazeera for truth and transparency. That's why I'm here. But will Al Jazeera fail me today? That is the question. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna automatically click the search icon right there. I haven't touched it. The cursor is off, and it will do it on its own. It will type the query, and it will go to its page. It will retrieve the links from there. It will retrieve the titles from there, and it will do the job as I stated earlier. And we can constantly check the progress in case there is an error. There is no error so far. It's a warning that the wait for function is duplicate. Of course, that can be migrated. That's not really an issue here. And right, as you can see, it's typing on its own, hands free, and we should be good to go. And then there is Google News. Since it is working in asynchronously, Google News opened right after, instead of waiting for Al Jazeera to gather all the articles. And it will open all its articles one by one, and we should be able to see our progress in some time as all the files, all the web pages load. I should keep saving them as we speak. There's an article on artificial intelligence, and that means our code is not completely bad. Right, let's give it some time to work. So since we are doing 5 articles for Google News and Al Jazeera each, it will open 10 tabs. It has opened 3 already. It should open around 7 more. Feel free to increase the speed of this video or skip a little to see the output. I'll probably put a timestamp there to see where you have to carry forward to see what we have actually obtained. And all right, so we can see it's opening the articles. And okay, so the top 5 links have been retrieved. That's great. Article 1 has been fetched for both Al Jazeera and Google. That's great. That means the code isn't too bad, which means that if it fails to, let's say, gather any content, it probably means that the server of that particular website from which we are trying to obtain our article is a little slow, and that will just give us the link. We'll still have the link if we want to read anyway, although we might still have other articles to get the latest updates from. That's why we're getting 5 articles instead of, one or maybe two. And right, we're still on article 1, but we'll make progress as soon as, basically what it does is, as soon as the web page loads, that is when our puppeteer, it scans for the content on this particular web page, and it basically gets it. See, 403 forbidden. That might cause some errors, but that's not our issue. Our code is working perfectly fine. That's the issue on the website. It's not allowing us to visit. And let's see what we have. All right, looks like, okay, we have an output here. Okay, so Google has finished all its operations. We have 5 articles from Google. Let's see. That's article 1, 2, 3, article 4, and 5. Looks like article 5 was the one we saw, which was forbidden, which is why we don't have an output, but we still have a link. So it's not like our code is complete waste. And Al Jazeera looks like it's about to complete its operations too. Basically, the aim of this project is to save time. So instead of reading all these 10 articles by opening them one by one manually and searching for them, I just enter a simple query. I get a PDF, which we will hopefully see in a moment. And right, Al Jazeera article 4 is fetched, and so is article 5. Great. So it looks like our code might be completed. So I'll check for reference. Right. So looks like we have our code with us. We have our PDF file with us. Sorry. And I'll go to its folder. Let me just close this article up. That was the article COVID-19 that was open previously, which I showed you guys. And I'll go to Google News. Okay, now, as you can see, we have an artificial intelligence file. We'll open this. It will take some time because, well, that's my laptop. To speed it up, I'll just terminate the process from here. And Puppeteer has closed. We'll go to the root, go to Al Jazeera, and there's an artificial intelligence folder there as well. And there are 2 artificial intelligence folders. One is this one, the one open right now is from the Al Jazeera folder, as you can see in the URL tab. And let's give it a moment to load, and it will. All right, looks like we have our output here. That's article 1 with its summary, with its original words and the number of words in the summarized article, and a sentiment. Artificial intelligence, the sentiment is 108 towards the positive side, which is a good indicator, I would like to think. And the artificial intelligence reinforces power and privilege. That's the heading, which gives us a neutral outlook, and that's 17, much more neutral than the previous one. Then artificial intelligence. Will artificial intelligence take over the world? Which gives us an output of 11 as our sentiment. And not and looks like it was a short article, so there was not a lot of scope for reduction, but we still managed to do 71 words exactly. And that's article 4. Similarly, we have article number 5. And when we go to the Google folder, Google PDF file, there is article 1, article 2, article 3, more towards the positive sides, and human decision still needed in artificial intelligence for war. It has a -1 sentiment, which means it's scaling a little towards the negative side. Short article, 63 words only. I guess we summarized it to 66 by adding some extra data on our own, and that's fine. That's probably due to the extra timestamps that it added. and that's all right. We can always filter them out manually. And there's Article 5, the one which was forbidden. So we could not retrieve the content, but we could still retrieve the title as well as the link. And it shows 1 and 1 because, well, we failed to do so. And since we failed to do so, it gives a default value of neutral, that is 0, which shows that our code is working just as intended. Of course, not everything's perfect in this world, and neither is the servers of their particular websites, because I have reason to believe my code's working perfectly fine. And if I am to walk you through the code right now, I'll try to do so quickly. But that's it for the demonstration part. So feel free to sign off. And and for those who wish to stick around to see how the demonstration works, this is exactly it. And these are the libraries that I've imported. Then there's the default async function, the global async function that I've created, the two functions that we've created, one for Al Jazeera, one for Google. We pass on their respective URLs and the Puppeteer browser instance, and the query that we entered manually via the command line. Then the OS and the sentiment files, those are, of course, I'm pretty sure you can guess why they were used by now. And there it is. So I'll walk you through one of the functions, that is get links from Google. So we open a new page. Then we set default navigation timeout to 0, which means it will keep waiting for the page to load till it does. Now I have faith that it will. That is why I set this to 0. Otherwise, it can be considered a little risky. But I know it's Google. It has to load someday, right? That's why I set it to 0. Then we go to the link, um, which has been passed down. That is, if you search for artificial intelligence, it will go to the artificial intelligence link. Then it will it will go to the news.google link, my bad. Then it will search for artificial intelligence, which was our query. It can be any query, of course. And then it will enter it, and then here's the part where Cheerio comes in. Actually, no, this is not exactly Cheerio. It's a callback function, and Cheerio is used here in the print top article name. Yeah, all right. So basically, we load the entire HTML of the entire page to display all the results. We choose a selector. We select the href attribute, which means we get the link of the top 5 articles, as I've set the value to 5 by default here. Of course, you can shift it, but it might cause some complications depending on the website you are getting it from. You might want to, yeah. And there's the heading. We get the text from this particular selector, and yeah, that's basically me formatting everything in these 5-6 lines of code, out of which one of them is the get sum article, which is the get summary. And going to the get summary function, which is our main function for this particular project. So we basically import the text summary library here, which I mentioned in the beginning of this video. We go to a new page for every article. We let it load. We go to the URL, and we wait for the selector, that is the p tag, which is basically representing all the content. Since all content on almost every website is usually kept inside the p tag, and that is the content of our article, and that is only appropriate and has been working the best so far. There were other selectors that I preferred, which I would not name at this moment because the results produced by them were rather embarrassing. So there is our evaluate function. Right, there it is. That's a evaluate function, and it's calling this console fn. This console fn basically selects all the p tags. It summarizes them in a string, and it returns that string, which is the details here. If it can't, it will just simply give out an error message. And yeah, then here comes the summary portion. We analyze the sentiment here, store it in the variable, number of words, something I had to do manually, but it's only one line of code, so it's all right. The number of sentences is 10, and here I use the text summary library, add the number of words um, which are in the summary document, same as above. And here I simply add all of them to a single string. I send them. I send them back up to um, to this variable single content, and I add all of this to our final answer. And then we give it a message that it's been completed. And then we go to the create op, which is the output, and going to the create op function. There you go, that is create op. We send in the folder name and the query, which will help us define the directory and the file name. So if the file already exists, do not bother, which was the case with us actually, since I already searched for COVID-19 earlier, so Google and Al Jazeera folders were created beforehand. Then there comes the file path, and that's a directory name, and folder name is Google and Al Jazeera respectively. Then a query, which is artificial intelligence in our case, and .pdf, since we want to store it in a PDF. Then we use the PDF kit to simply write the functions. The answer variable is what we passed on from the earlier function, if you remember. And then we simply create it, store it, and end the process right here. And that's the summary of what I've done to accomplish this code so far. And yeah, thanks for watching.